Hi everyone, and thanks for joining our online open event this evening for Teacher Education. Tonight I'm joined by tutors Adam and David, as well as graduate Hollie. If you do have any questions at all, please pop them in the Q&A box just to the right hand side of your screen throughout the event, and our team will answer these at the end of the session. Adam, over to you.
Lovely, thank you very much. Good evening everybody, and welcome to our introduction to teacher education. Just a little bit about who we are. This is a welcome from the team. My name is Adam Hewitt. I'm the Quality Manager for Higher Education, and I'm the Head of Teacher Education at UCEN Manchester. And joining me on the call from the team today is David Eversley. He's one of the course tutors and the admissions tutor for Teacher Education.
Hello.
We also have three other members of the team who weren't able to join us on the call tonight, but I wanted to make sure I'd introduce them. So we have Lynn Sanders. She's the department team leader for teacher education and one of our course tutors. Brenda Campbell, who is a course tutor, and Vanessa Lees, who is another of our course tutors. Also on tonight's event, we're joined by our students. So we have Davina Graham. Davina is a certificate in education Year 2 student, and she's a graduate from the Level 3 award in education and training. And also on the call tonight we have Hollie Crankshaw. She's a graduate of our professional graduate certificate in education, our PGCE in lifelong learning, and we're going to get a chance to chat to them later a little bit about their experiences of being on the course with us. So just a little bit about us then. Well, we're Teacher Education, and we primarily teach teachers to work in the lifelong learning sector. That includes a very wide range of different workplaces. So you might be interested in working somewhere like an FE college, but there are also alternatives that could be in a prison, in a charity, to adult education. It could be workplace training or higher education, or you might be interested in working with younger learners in 14 to 16 education, or in something like alternative education, where students don't follow a mainstream curriculum. So our courses prepare you for teaching across a wide range of different disciplines, and that's just an example of where some of our students are teaching or want to teach in their future teaching career. So where will you learn? Well, Teacher Education, we're based at Fielden Campus, which is in West Didsbury in South Manchester. It's an adult-only campus, so the majority of the provision there is with UCEN Manchester, and we also have some adult provision that's based around catering and counselling. You'll also have the opportunity to work and to visit the University of Huddersfield, and that's the Queensgate campus, which is the main campus in Huddersfield. Our higher education provision is validated by University of Huddersfield, and so we work very closely with them, and not only to put our programme together, but also with the staff there, and to give you opportunities to work with them and to go and visit their second year of our Cert Ed and PGCE programmes. So a little bit about the wider support available then. So while you're with us on a teacher education programme, it's not just us, we also have a much wider team that supports us and supports you in the work that you do. We have Future You, which is our student support service. They provide things like advice and guidance, guidance on health and well-being. They support around any disability and student support that you might require. And they're also there for things like careers advice and fees and finance advice. And we also have a fully functioning students union at UCEN Manchester. They are a really strong representation for all our students, and they also run a number of campaigns and activities in conjunction with the National Union of Students. So that's a little bit about us, a very brief whistle-stop tour of teacher education from me. But the main purpose of this evening is for us to have an opportunity to talk to some of our students and to give you an idea from our students of what it's like to be a student on a teacher education course and what it's like to study with us at UCEN Manchester. So if I can hand over, I think someone has some questions for us.
Yes, hello. Thanks for that, Adam. Good little overview. So I'm just going to start with Hollie. I think Davina is going to join us shortly. So Hollie, if we just start with you, could you tell us a little bit about your background and what you did before you started studying towards becoming a teacher?
Yeah, so I actually did my subject-specific degree at UCEN. So I studied special effects makeup artistry. after I'd graduated, kind of took some time out, did a little bit of industry work, and then got invited back to the department for some kind of guest lecturing hours, and that's kind of ultimately what led me on to doing the PGCE course. So kind of from being a previous UCEN student, going forth, doing a little bit of teaching, getting a little bit of experience, and then kind of wrapping up and getting the PGCE qualification.
Lovely. And then so obviously you've said a little bit around there, but what actually made you decide that you wanted to teach, and what brought you, well, obviously you've studied at UCEN Manchester, but was there a reason you continued on with us?
Yeah, I think a few reasons really. I don't think my journey to teaching was necessarily conventional, and that kind of wasn't necessarily the game plan.
What did you want to do instead, Hollie? What was going to be the plan originally?
I mean, the ultimate game plan was to do, you know, big kind of Hollywood films. But teaching is much better than that. So, so yeah, just it was the experience of having the hours, the experience of being in the classroom, but then wanting a little bit more from the experience and actually wanting to learn a little bit around teaching and kind of techniques. Obviously, studying at UCEN, it was kind of a natural progression because I'd done my own degree there, but campus location was great. I had colleagues who'd previously done their PGCE with UCEN who all said, you know, support was great, the course was really insightful, really helpful. So it just kind of felt like a natural transition really for me.
Okay, thanks for that, Hollie. And then I guess, could you tell us a bit about the course that you actually study and what kind of things it involved and what you had to do as part of it?
Yeah, so the first year for me was kind of a lot about sort of the theory behind and looking at lots of different kind of methods in teaching. There was lots of different like little activities that kind of prepared you for being in the classroom, things like a micro teach, lots of really great ideas that I could then take forward into my own classroom because I was teaching alongside doing the course. So that was really nice to be able to kind of implement that myself. The second year was kind of more self-directed, a little bit more reflective. So focusing on kind of the teacher that I wanted to become and how I would ultimately end up there.
And did your own experiences of kind of being taught, how did that frame that conversation in year two? So you were talking about the kind of teacher you wanted to be. Were you influenced by the way that you'd been taught, or did you have a different idea of how that would turn out?
I mean, David is incredibly influential. You know, everyone should aspire to be a teacher like David. But I think, yeah, my experience of having been a student definitely made me not want to make changes in kind of a negative sense, but it made me want to have an impact on other students the way that my education had impacted me, and just being able to have that opportunity and be able to kind of hopefully then go on to inspire students to, whether it's going to be going into the industry, whether it's going to be something kind of subject specific, or whether it's kind of steering them maybe down a slightly different career path. But I think, yeah, my kind of experience of education definitely drove me a little bit more to become the kind of teacher that I feel I am.
That's great. And I guess kind of looking back now, obviously you've graduated and you're into work, but what was it like on that first day? And maybe also back to your first day at UCEN even as well.
Yeah, strange, but strange in a good way, I think. As I say, I'd kind of had a bit of experience of sort of teaching prior to doing the PGCE, but what I thought I knew about teaching, I kind of knew so much more having done the PGCE and then getting into that kind of first lesson. So my confidence grew massively. I think lessons definitely became more enriched, loads of great kind of resource and activities that I could take forward from doing the PGCE. So yeah, just felt knowledgeable and kind of empowered, actually.
And just on that first day, Hollie, so were you the most experienced teacher there, having done a little bit of teaching before, or were there people who'd never done any teaching? Were there people who'd done lots of teaching?
To be honest, it was quite a mixed bag. There were some people who'd never taught class before. There were some people who were kind of similarly experienced to me. There were some people who had a little bit more experience than me. But I think regardless of previous teaching experience, the PGCE qualification is so insightful regardless of that. And I think even if just from a confidence perspective, it kind of enriches that, and that kind of teacher's coat that David talks about, even that feels so much more.
Would you like to expand on what that teacher's coat is, maybe, David?
So David used to tell us about his teacher's coat, and when you got in the classroom, it was almost like you were putting this jacket on to become the teacher. So my teacher's coat was definitely different at the start to when I'd kind of graduated.
Yeah, it's just the idea that you adopt the persona of teacher when you actually stand in front of a class. There is a change in the way in which you react with and to other people when you're actually teaching a lesson. And I just use a metaphor of the idea of putting on the teacher's coat at that point and going into the lesson.
Yeah, I guess probably a little bit of that separation as well, isn't it? Fab. And then it kind of carries on from what you're just saying about having different people and their different confidence levels, Hollie. But what kind of are the benefits that you found of learning with people who come from a variety of different sectors and backgrounds?
I think just kind of hearing their experiences, whether that be from kind of their own classes or whether it be from maybe observations they've had. It's kind of a daunting prospect kind of going into that classroom, but I think being surrounded by people who are on similar journeys, who've had similar experiences, I think that kind of student support level from all kind of being in the same boat is really quite valuable. And you know, everyone was great at sharing ideas. I tried this week and it went really well. So even just from kind of an idea sharing perspective, it's really nice, that kind of student bubble that you have within the groups. And
again, in your class, Hollie, were people from lots of different areas then, teaching from lots of different areas?
Yeah, absolutely. There were some people who were in prison education. There were some people from different kind of alternative education settings. So even that just kind of opened your eyes to different experiences, but also like possibilities within education. So like you were saying before, Adam, about, you know, there's lots of different routes that you can go down. And I think, you know, hearing it firsthand from the people who work within those settings was incredibly valuable.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, and I guess kind of goes back to a bit of Adam's initial introduction as well about what kind of courses that we do offer and how they are geared for kind of people who are a bit more in the lifelong learning sector, but also really helping you understand what that sector might be. So Adam, yeah. I don't know if you want to give a few more examples of where people might come from. Obviously you alluded there to, you know, prison education. Obviously you're in FE college and kind of like higher like degree level study, aren't you, Hollie? But what other sectors have we got, Adam?
Yeah, we've had all kinds of we service a really wide range of sectors, and so we've had people who've come directly working for charities, so they may have training as the sole part of their role or a large part of their role. We've had people who've come from specific workplaces, so again might have some form of HR background or that kind of work-related learning background. We've had students who've come through from the NHS, so I think we had one student who worked with training medical equipment, for example, and so that was a very specific form of training. And so we see students who will work in a really really wide range of backgrounds, and their subjects also really vary. And so we've got Hollie, who was teaching media makeup. We have people who teach on academic subjects like, you know, English, maths, history, science. We have people who teach on very vocational based subjects. So we've had people who've been doing scaffolding, as an example I can think of, motor vehicle. So again, kind of really diverse things that people teach as well. And for us, that's what really makes the difference for students. And that's something that Hollie was just talking about, is the opportunity to share really different experiences, but also to note that there's a lot in common that each of these areas have, and that actually, you know, once they've got to grips with good teaching and learning, they've then got the opportunity to share some of those experiences between them. And so, you know, students become their own teachers in a lot of senses in that classroom, and there's so much learning that happens not just from us as staff, but actually in between our students as well. Those conversations that students have, and I hope you'll agree with me, Hollie, and they can be really strong kind of conversations. You know, and you take a lot from those, a lot of learning just from the fact that students come from such a wide range of backgrounds. In our case, we also have students who are career changing, and so we'll get students who've started in one profession. I was a career changing student myself when I learned how to teach. I've been a management accountant previously, and so people tend to come on board who are maybe looking for a career change, have done something for a period of time and now want to have a go at doing something else. And so we get a really wide age range as well, for example, a real spread of students across the age range. So from people who've had some experience out in industry and through to people who might have had 20 plus, 30 plus years working out in industry. In fact, our oldest ever student has been 76.
Yes.
Just to show it's never too late to want to have a career change.
That's brilliant, isn't it? And I guess obviously really goes back to that point of having such a diversity in the students that we do have at UCEN Manchester, and the real positive impact that that can have as well. Back to you, Hollie. We've got another question on a bit about what it's like having one of your tutors come out and observe you while you are teaching.
Don't stall, Hollie.
You definitely get used to it. The first few are kind of a little, you know, a little bit daunting, but it's a good pressure. And after that, you kind of don't notice it. It's nice, and what's really rewarding about it is that you get kind of the honest feedback at the end, so you know kind of what was worked really well, what maybe, you know, you could work on. So it's a daunting prospect, but so valuable and so beneficial. I learned a lot from observations and just little ideas and little techniques. You know, if I personally felt like something in the session hadn't maybe gone so well, the tutors were always kind of there to say, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So daunting, but in a good way. It makes you kind of strive to do better.
And I think that's a really common experience, Hollie, for our students. I think that people tend to be a little bit nervous about the observation process and are worried what that might look like. But actually, we always kind of stress that it's about supporting students, and it gives you an opportunity to have some time after a teaching session with a teacher education tutor to talk about some of those things that have gone well, to really celebrate those successes, but also to unpick some of those things that maybe you do want some more support with, or things that you've identified that you want help with. So I'm really pleased that you've talked about the process in that way, because that's certainly how we set it up for students.
Would you say that that's probably the biggest part of the learning experience, is actually doing that practical bit of teaching? Or
yeah, I think so. Like I say, I kind of had a little bit of experience of being in a classroom and teaching groups before I did it, and like I said before, you know, I'd learned so much more. I was such a different teacher after the course. So I think yeah, absolutely, really valuable in terms of feedback, ideas. Yeah, definitely.
Great. And then kind of coming towards the end of these, so what has been the biggest achievement so far while studying?
I think just the reward of the job. I think the little thank you notes from the students and kind of seeing them through from kind of how I probably felt starting the course and feeling a bit nervous and apprehensive and can I do this, you know, am I taking on too much, which I think a lot of students think regardless of course, but I think seeing the reward of that within my own students is kind of the biggest highlight and biggest achievement.
I guess obviously that goes across all teaching. So Adam, David, what are your most proud moments as teachers?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly remember my first day going to train to be a teacher. I gave up a job to go and train to do it full time, so I did it in a year cycle. And I remember my first time I went into a classroom. I went to it with a group of adults, and actually at the end of it, it was just the fact of how much I'd enjoyed the experience, how much they'd enjoyed the experience. I spent a lot of time planning it. I was really nervous about it, but actually just after you'd had that first go, I don't think you ever forget that first time because you're this really big bag of nervous energy. But actually when you've done it, you kind of feel relieved about it, you feel proud about it. And I don't think anybody ever forgets that first time in a classroom. I mean, to put it delicately, David is a little bit older than me. And I'm fairly sure that David still also remembers his first time in the classroom.
Oh, absolutely.
It's one of those unforgettable, yes. It's one of those unforgettable experiences.
David, what's yours?
I've been teaching for about 1,000 years. The one thing that sticks in my mind was probably about, I don't know, 7-8 years ago. I was contacted by a pupil from when I taught chemistry who has now become a chemistry teacher because of the way I taught him chemistry. I think that probably is the thing that sticks in my mind, I suppose, now.
Oh, that's brilliant. I hope that was he's teaching because he wanted to follow in a similar path than you and not not any other reasons.
He just likes burning things and blowing things up as well.
Well, I mean, I think
the whole point of being a chemistry teacher. So,
I mean, I think as a teacher, there are so many of those moments that you're really proud of, and I'm sure Hollie and David will agree that there are so many times when you think, gosh, this is absolutely the best job in the world, and I often think that about teaching, that, I can't imagine doing anything else, and I think anybody who says they've got the best job in the world is not telling the truth, because teaching is categorically, the most challenging and yet rewarding career you could have. And I've really found that right throughout my career, and Hollie's just starting out on that teaching career now, and I know that she's finding that already, and I hope that Hollie, you will continue to do so, of course, that teaching will continue to be a really rewarding and challenging career for you.
Yeah, I guess it's really nice to see that kind of work both ways as well, isn't it? Of obviously, from a student perspective, it's a huge part of your life, irregardless of when you kind of take that education, whether it's kind of, prep right through till, like degree level stuff or beyond as well with the lifelong learning sector. But obviously to see it on the other side of how much you guys all enjoy what you do as teachers is fantastic, isn't it? Well, I think that's it. Unfortunately, we've not been able to get Davina on this side of the teams, which I think we're all a bit heartbroken about, because it would have been fabulous to hear her thoughts on this. But thank you for those who have joined us. David and Adam, Hollie, I don't know if you've got anything else to add before we do finish up the session.
Just to say that if anybody is interested in applying for our courses, all the details of the courses are at ucenmanchester.ac.uk on the web, and you can also email over to enquiries@ucenmanchester.ac.uk, where any inquiries that anyone has about our courses will be sent on usually to either me or on to David, and we can always talk more about anything you might want to ask about our courses, maybe if you've got any queries about and what it will involve, time commitment, funding, things like that. And then we're certainly a friendly team, and we're always available if anybody wants to talk to us about the courses.
Lovely. David, Hollie, any final words before we finish up?
Only it's the best job in the world, and this is the best part of the best job in the world. So.
Being on a Zoom call at 6:30 at night.
Well, no, I was sort of meaning actually doing teacher education, but training teachers is even better than being a teacher. So
yes, agreed.
Oh, brilliant.
Agreed.
Great stuff. Well, thank you very much, David, Holly and Adam. It's been really fantastic listening to you talk, and thanks for those who have joined us this evening. While this is the last event of the series, you can catch up on this one, watch it back if you like, or if you would like to catch up on any of the other subject area ones, you can do by visiting our YouTube channel or our website. As Adam said, if you would like to apply for 2021, you can visit our website ucenmanchester.ac.uk to find your future course and hit apply now. We'll pop this information in the chat box now as well, just so you've got those links direct. But again, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Holly, Adam and David, for your time.
Lovely. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.